Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast.
We're all set up here down this creek bottom. Being buck's been in here a bunch of times, so good chance to see it on him.
Meh. Smoking. I think he just crashed, bro. Absolute money, dude. It's 76 degrees out. We just set up 80 yards from a buck and killed him at 18 yards.
Here we are. We're set up on a scrape that's been absolute fire in the last 8 days. We know a shooting went in here to bed this morning.
Matt. Did you get it? That's at 8, dude. That's at 8.
Bucked out October 28th. Homie's up for the rest of November. Absolutely incredible season. Both kills on hanging hunts, right on the beds, and just making it happen.
Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast, coming in your ear holes. And this week, we're talking with Scott Buckley on scouting public land, just a tactic talk with him. We go over cams, the food switch, the velvet shed, mapping and marking, the stuff that he does out there to get him on these giant bucks year after year. Let's get into the people that make this show possible. We'll get right into the show. Starting off with 330 Archery, guys. Tony at 330 Archery has it going on to make sure you can count on your bow when you need it the most. 330 Archery bowstrings are made with the best material available, has a quick turnaround, and is offering you listeners a discount for supporting this podcast using code Whitetail20, no spaces, no capital letters, Whitetail20, to save you 20% off. If you're all about supporting the local guy, 330 Archery is for you. Visit 330archery.com or reach out to Tony personally to place your order to answer any questions. Guys, Tony's an awesome guy. Me and him have been chatting back personally. He's making a great product, great dude. I love that I can support him on this show, and hopefully you guys, if you're in the market for a bowstring, you can give him a shot and see what he can do for you. All right, next on the list is Exodus Outdoor Gear. Guys, it is the last week of Velvet Fest. If you are wanting to get these savings on these cams, on this gear, on these solar panels, anything on their website except the arrows, you can use code SUMMERBUCKS, capital S, capital B, no spaces, to save you 18%. And exclusive to podcast listeners, they're going to extend this offer to the end of the month, guys. So this is the last week that you'll be able to do this. This is part of their hashtag Velvet Fest. This was going on to August 19th, but since you listen to the show, they're going to extend it throughout the rest of the year or the month here. If you're new to Exodus, let me share a little bit about them. Over the last 7 years, Exodus has consistently shown that they build quality gear that flat out works. The best trail camera warranty, period. Every single camera is backed by a 5-year warranty and comes with theft and damage coverage. Yes, 5 years, literally half a decade, you'll be covered by the Exodus 5-year warranty. But more than likely, you won't need these cams. Like I said last podcast, I have cams out there. I fired up the 5th year this year. They fired right up. I don't think they're ever going to die. They're out there putting in the work for me right now. They also launched the Exodus MMT arrows this summer, a tailor-built arrow to your specifications using nothing but the highest grade components, period. Head to their website, use a 3D builder, and experience the best shooting hunting arrow available. If you have shot these and you're digging them, you're liking them, tag them, give them a message, let them know what you like about the arrow, what you're seeing out of the arrow. This is the first year making them, so they want some feedback. I'm shooting these arrows. They're flying awesome. They fly very, very flat out of my bow, the flattest shooting arrow that I've ever shot. My broadheads are shooting awesome out of them, so I cannot ask for more out of the Exodus MMTs right now. Next on the docket is Afflictor Broadheads. I was looking and searching for a new broadhead to shoot this upcoming deer season when I came across the Afflictor Broadhead. Simply put, these are the broadheads that are built by people who care about hunting. These guys have been manufacturing some of the best hybrid broadheads on the market since 2015 and introduced an awesome line of fixed blade heads in 2018. Whether you're chasing small game, deer, elk, bear, moose, caribou, African game, or anything in between, Afflictor has the right broadhead for you. If you're looking for a tough broadhead, accurate broadhead, and dependable broadhead that offers superior penetration, Afflictor Broadhead is your mother of all broadheads. We take our job here at Afflictor very seriously. Why? Because we are just like you, bow hunters. I'm shooting the K2 fixed this fall. They're flying like darts. I shot them at 50 yards just the other day. Put a video up. You can't ask for more. I switched to a fixed this year. I hadn't shot fixed in a while. I tried them. I tried a bunch of different heads. Tried them. Really liked them. They just fly really good, and that's something that I struggled with a fixed blade broadhead over the years and why I didn't shoot them. So they're field point accurate, and they're penetrating extremely well. Exodus Outdoor Gear actually did a lot of testing with these heads, and they come in top of the line against some of the most expensive and best broadheads in the industry. These guys are right there running neck and neck with them. So if you want to learn more about the Afflictor, go over to afflictorbroadheads.com and check them out. If you guys are looking for a new head, give them a shot and see what you think. Last on the list is Ride On Optics. A buddy of mine actually purchased the Conquer 1 and was blown away by the price for one, the lifetime warranty, unlimited lifetime warranty. He breaks it, his kid breaks it, the gun drops, it's covered. But he was just blown away by the glass quality, the picture quality, and the choice of reticle that he got at the price point. I'm actually running that same scope on my muzzleloader illuminated sight, so I'm pretty excited to get that out there this year. Been shooting it a bunch, shooting real solid. There's just something about having a scope that you buy one time, you buy once, you cry once, and they're so affordable for a lifetime warranty. I honestly don't know how that they're selling them the price that they are with the warranty that they're given. But that's something that you see with the trend of this podcast. We like to represent products that have that really good warranty because we're working guys just like you, and when we spend money on something, we want it to be solid and last a long time. That's something that you can do with a Ride On optic. So if you need any optics, red dot scope, anything for your hunting needs, shooting needs, check them out at rideonoptics.com. All right, guys, let's get in the show and chat with Scott Buckley on some public land scouting. Here we go. All right, we got Scott Buckley on the from the land of the absolute giant bucks in Iowa. How are you doing tonight, Scott?
Good. How's it going, Cody?
Doing good. I am super excited to have you back on the podcast. Like I'd mentioned when we were talking there, your episode did, it was the second episode we had for the whole entire year. So there's a lot of people that want to hear what you say and respect what you got going on and all your success that you've had over the years.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so you're a huge public land guy. You hunt some private, but you're always out there scouting, and you're posting your stuff. And I wanted to find someone on there to talk about last-minute public land scouting, what you're doing right now to help yourself be successful, coming when season opens. So do a brief description about yourself, and then we'll get right into what you got going on.
Yeah, Scott Buckley, been living in Iowa 13 years, I guess now. 2009, moved out here from Michigan. Primarily hunted just public land for the last 13 years. Until 7 years ago, I bought a piece of property, and we do a lot of gun hunting on it. If we got the right buck, we do a little bit of bow hunting, but primarily I bow hunt public land. I guess, where do we start here?
Yeah, I know on your family farm, you kind of save that for your family. And then
yeah.
Excuse me, I took a drink and it went down the wrong pipe.
Oh, no.
But yeah, so I mean, you're hunting public, so you can save those bucks for your family, and that's what I've seen over the years. But there's a lot of guys out there right now that they're trying to, maybe they're late to a spot, figuring it out, and season's coming real quick here. So if you were to go out scouting on a piece of public, what would be one of the first things that you do starting out?
Actually, now because I've had cameras, I started putting cameras out. we started putting them out probably 1st of June. Sometimes I wait till July 4th, but this year we really expanded our public land areas. We done so much scouting this spring, February, March, first couple weeks of April. I don't know. We expanded. Normally we're running 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 areas. We probably got another 4 or 5 areas this year. So,
Wow.
so we kind of started early setting cameras because we mainly got the weekends. My farm's farm and has a little house there is 2 hours from where I live and work. So we're just heading down there on the weekends, and that's all the public lands around that area that I've hunted for years. Where my farm is, some of the pieces are within 5 minutes, some are within 45 minutes, 50 minutes. So we started in June running some of these pieces, putting cameras out, kind of more, I don't know, the edge. If we could find croplands on the edge of croplands, there's quite a bit of crops on public land out here. Or, if there was, like, for instance, one spot up the road from me, that was probably about the 1st of July. We were seeing like 30, 40 deer come out in these bean fields while it bordered public land. So, and there was quite a few nice bucks. So me and my boy just, we run in, found these trails coming in and out of the beans, and we hung cameras on them, 20, 30 yards off of the property line, just at the trail, just kind of see what bucks are in there. So we done that. We kind of just set cameras, we've been setting them nonstop. I've got more cameras this year than ever, but now we're kind of starting to transform them a little bit. And I have added a few cell cameras to the line this year, so I can kind of see, just what they're doing. They're always changing their whatever, they're changing their patterns weekly or whatever, but so we're kind of going back in some of these areas, especially the ones where we're picking up some nicer bucks, and we're getting them off these, edges or food sources, or even I had a couple minerals. It's legal in Iowa as long as, you don't hunt anywhere around them or trails leading to them. I don't run mineral much as I did in the past, but I got a couple spots. But so we're kind of taking them off them. Like the other day, kind of used for example, we went in, we run some cameras. It was a big, huge hill country, just all timber. We run cameras up real high on this main ridge, kind of up close to this private land where I know that there's big deer on it, and haven't been getting a lot, just a buck here and there. Well, there's ag fields like maybe a mile away to the east. Well, we just run a camera down off this finger, just a still camera, back in June. And when me and my son were up checking them ridgetop cameras, I said, well, let's run down that finger and just check that camera. I was going to let it sit. Well, it didn't even look that good on this finger. I mean, there was a main trail coming down, but not much for sign in June, hardly any tracks. And I told my boy, I said, we might not even check this till March, it might just be one of them soaker cameras. But we were up on top, and I said, well, let's just follow our maps and come down and check that camera. And because when we set it, we come in along this creek on the bottom, but that's kind of why we kind of just followed our Onyx maps, because we never came in from the top to check it. Well, we ended up pulling that camera here about a month ago, and I could call that thing how the hunting public has their buck nest. I could have called that my buck nest. I've never had so many different bucks on a camera before, on one that I didn't think was, it was just a soaker camera for me. I wasn't even really going to check it. I just thought, well, let's run down there, because it didn't look that good. And I'm glad I checked it, because that was probably 3 weeks ago. We checked it, had bucks all over it. And then I went back up in there last week and put some cell cams up in a bedding area, because all these bucks are coming in off this ag field, and they were just going up this finger. So I had an idea where they're bedding on the leeward, side of the ridge where the your predominant winds come over, and they kind of had the ideal situation for bedding. Just picture book text, how they're using that ridge. And so I took a couple cell cams up there last weekend, and I checked that card again and just full of bucks. And I have two of them that are probably 170, 10-pointers, and another, I don't know, there's a huge 8-pointer, probably 150. Just 3 or 4 shooters. I've never had such a thing. That's why I called it my little buck nest.
Yeah, that seems like I've had that before too, where you hang a cam kind of in a summer spot, maybe on the edge of a field or close to the parking lot or something, or close to a road, and you're thinking, man, I got an extra cam. I'm just kind of wondering what's going on here. And we did that last year, the year before and last year, and that's how I refound the buck that I was hunting 2 years ago, was just off a cam that's 15 yards off the road where there's a heavy trail they're coming out to ag. And like you said, it's mostly nighttime pictures there, but then you could follow them back to where the bedding is, and then boom, you get them on the cell cam, and you're like, oh man, there he is. And it was off of that cam that was kind of like, I'm going to put it here and see what it does. Might check it, might not check it, and sometimes those spots surprise you. Yep.
Yeah, I was really shocked. And I kind of, I read the story on them. I wasn't getting. Most of them were morning, and actually, a lot of them were after daylight. They were coming up out of these ag fields, and so that's kind of why I went up a few hundred yards, kind of where I thought they might be bedding. And on the little finger, there was a south trail and a north trail on each side of the finger, and I set a cell cam on each one it was a week ago this weekend. And anyways, throughout the week, I didn't get any pictures for 3-4 days, and then all of a sudden, because I boogered it up in there, and then all of a sudden I started getting pictures. Yesterday, like 10, 11 o'clock, I had a huge 8-pointer. I think that 150 some 8-pointer, and then I had the 110, the 100. I would say is a mid 170s 10 at 11 o'clock. Yeah, so that told me I'm right in the middle of the bedding area.
Yeah, that told you you're right in the goodies right there.
Yeah, so, and another reason I thought that would be great is on this finger, it's loaded with big oak trait in there. So that's kind of what I'm banking on. I played my intel off the camera on the bottom by the ag fields. They're coming up in the morning, kind of figured out where they'd be batting, put cameras up in there. And then I'm hoping, a lot of bucks get up and move here as they shed velvet and move areas or whatever, but they kind of still got everything they need. There's bean fields down below, but there's also a big cornfield right along a timber. They have a cornfield there. They have water down below. They have just superior bedding, and then they got all these acorns up in there. They should produce, or at least some of them. So I'm hoping, a couple of them will stick around. They probably won't all, because once they shed, they get kind of, they're not as buddy with each other. But
at least hold a couple of them in there. Sounds like they got everything you need to hold them.
Yeah. So that was kind of my strategy on this spot. I read my camera down below. I went up, placed cameras up a little higher.
So
and
starting out here, you're moving cams off the summer, kind of on the fall program, but you're pulling some cams, and then you're moving cams deeper off those cams that are showing where the activity's leading. Yep.
Just trying to read what these deer are doing as it gets closer to season, get them up where, I've never been much of a field hunter. I mean, every situation's different, but especially on public land, they're get pressured early along the field edges. So I'm more up deep or whatever in the timber. And that's one great strategy, just follow them bucks. And I'm going to be doing that more. We were going to take some more in a couple spots here the next couple weeks, kind of get them more up in these oak groves, on these ridges.
Yeah.
That's a great strategy. I would like I would like to. The first ones I seen dropping, actually, Cameron from Exodus was out here last week. We were doing some scouting. He drew out here and in an area, and we went out and set some cams, and then I had to go back in and move one last. I think I went in about a week, less than a week ago, 4 or 5. One of them wasn't working, one of the cell cams, so I went in and swapped it and took a different route along this cornfield, and I found this old scrape tree, like a basswood tree or something, and just not this year's scrapes, but you could see the whole one side of the tree, just all the branches, licking branches, and you kind of see the old scrapes. And then we're looking at that, saying, wow, this would be a perfect spot for a camera, not immediately, but coming up here when bucks start getting frisky here within the next month, they'll start hitting scrapes pretty good. But yeah, then we noticed an oak tree right there, 10 yards away from all these scrapes, is the first one I seen dropping. There was acorns all over. So, I have to. I'm getting another. I didn't have a camera then to set, but Cameron set me one out, and I'm going to get another one on this acorn tree and scrape. And but yeah, that's what I'm going to try to do more, especially if you can see them dropping.
The acorns.
That's why I'm going to wait. Yeah, wait another week or two if you can find a tree that is dropping, or like a cluster of oak trees on a ridge. I mean, there isn't nothing better than that. I mean, long as there isn't too many in the area, like in big forests, sometimes you got to know, look for sign, look for tracks, if they're in eating them acorns, get a camera on them, or, if you're not a camera guy, just look for sign. And, some guys don't like cameras. They just like the old traditional way of finding the deer, but just look for sign, or they're going to start shedding here in the next, I've seen a couple of reports on Facebook, but the next week, a lot of them going to be shedding. And so you'll start seeing them little rubs, especially up in the timber. Like that's usually where I start seeing them, around where acorns are dropping.
Yep.
You'll see little rubs, and bucks get a little bit frisky when they're in there eating and start rubbing little trees. And it's usually littler ones, around this time of year, but
yeah, they're not real aggressive. They're just trying to get the velvet off, so they're normally hitting the smaller trees.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, I look for that big time. And I start transforming them, so either scrapes or acorns, and your trails are always solid. I've been doing more like on creek crossings and river crossings, or like big draws where they pinch around a draw. There should be a heavy trail. And I always try to get an intersection of trails, just so you ain't watching one. Try to get, a spot where you got 2 or 3 trails crossing, so you're not just picking up one trail, it helps. You got, that's kind of been.
So you're moving the cams off the field edges, kind of you're pulling the cards, getting the intel, kind of following them back. Then you're also moving and hanging some new cams on what you believe the bucks are going to be doing in the, not in the summer. You're moving them on the acorns. You're getting ready on the scrapes. And that's something that I did this year. I kind of hung some on the edge, but I hung a lot of cams for October, because that's when our season starts, like on scrapes that I know that fire up, on trails that I know. And people are asking me kind of what I got for shooter bucks right now, and I got a couple, but I said wait until the first week of season when that pressure goes in there and it pushes those bucks off the field edges. They start shedding velvet, like you said. They start breaking up. That's when I'll start getting my bucks on cam. And instead of hanging them and then doing the move, I spread out on a bunch of different properties, kind of like you did. So I kind of hung myself. When I hung the cams, kind of knowing that the first month of the cam wasn't going to be, red hot, staging up for that,
exactly
last week of September, first week of October, where I know these areas are gonna start firing up. But if a guy was out there, and he has some cams out there, that is the time to move right now to move them to those spots where you're actually going to be able to kill them in season. Because, like you said, more than likely, once that pressure gets in there, they're not going to be on the field edges. You're not going to be able to glass them up from the road. They're going to do that velvet switch. And something that I want to ask you, if you noticed, every year is like clockwork. When they start shedding velvet, I lose all my bucks. Like nothing on cam for like 5 to 7 days. It's like when they shed in velvet, there's something going on with them where they just like hide up and don't move at all, and then they come back and they're hard horned. So
yeah, that's the truth. I mean, I that happens to me every year. I mean, pretty much I see the chatter on social media. You know, that happens to a lot of people. You wonder where they go, and
yeah, they do something when they shed their velvet. Everybody thinks they lose their bucks, but they didn't lose them all. But they're not. There's nothing on cam, nothing moving, and then all of a sudden stuff's coming back hard horn. Now they're hitting the scrapes. Now they're on the acorns, and you're kind of getting a little bit more pictures of them. But like I said, there's like 5 days there where it's nothing. But another thing I noticed, I wanted to know if you'd mentioned, like you said, you had that 3-day gap where there was nothing kind of on that cam. After you were in there, I've noticed that bucks that come in, especially if you like cut some grass or knock some stuff down, they're kind of come in and investigate that area, and then they will be gone for, you get a bunch of pictures, and then they'll be gone for 3-4 days, and then they start coming back.
That's huge. That happens to me all the time. I'll see it. I'll see them come in. You get close up pictures. They'll even come in and lick the camera or put their face right in it because they smell your scent all over. And that's why I always said it's good to do this stuff way before season.
Mm-hmm.
It tells you a lot there. I mean, there's so much that cameras can tell you. It tells you, when you're hunting, you go in and kind of booger up a spot. Them bucks know you're there. It's just like hanging cameras now. I go hang my cameras, like you said, you got them all over the camera, smelling where you've been, smelling your tracks, your cut branches. They're smelling that. Just everything, and then they disappear. They know you're there, and they're just checking it out. And a lot of times it's after dark where they feel safe, and then all of a sudden they disappear for a few days.
Yep.
And it just like relates to hunting. That's why I don't sit many spots, more than once or twice, unless I have a really good backstop. Like climbing up out of a creek bank or a river or something where I don't have to walk across. They can't even at nighttime, it just isn't why you're there in the stand. They come through at night. If you're walking across deer trails, you're hunting big mature buck, not little yearling bucks. They come in and smell that you were there. They're going to walk to your tree. They're going to, they're gonna smell where you went up the tree, your steps. I mean, I watch it all the time on cameras what they do. So that's why I move around so much hunting season, because if you don't have a solid access point, like climb up out of a creek bank where there's no trail, where they can't get behind you and smell your tracks, they're gonna know you're there within, a short time frame, and they're either gonna evacuate or they're going to come in downwind to that hunting stand just to see if you're around. I mean, that's why they live to an old age. So cameras will tell you all that too.
Yeah, especially those mobile cams. It's really cool to see that. I run a few mobile cams as well, and it's really cool to see that, intel where, okay, they're there, and then they're gone for 3 days, and you're like, what, man, where'd they go? And then you see them 3-4 days, 5 days, they come back. They're still leery, and then there's some bucks that seem to be kind of edge on cameras, and there's some bucks that don't care at all.
Exactly. They all got their own personality.
Yeah, but it's just crazy to see how much you affect an area, even out of season. And that's something that I feel like a lot of people do. They wait and they pull the cams, 3 or 4 days a season to get the most, the most accurate intel that they can get. Well, then the buck's on there. And then they go back in there, 3 days later when season starts. Oh, he didn't show up. Well, you were just in there 3 days ago. So I've been trying to pull my reg cams a couple times before season. And like you said, that scouting in March, February, That's how you kill these deer, is you figure that out. Then you say, okay, I got a buck in here. This is where I think he's doing. You pull it 2 weeks in advance, and then you make a move on him. But with cell cams, it's so nice to be able to say, okay, he's in there. I got a shot to go try to hunt him.
Yep, exactly.
So when you're out there, when you're out there on public land now, and you're moving these cams, is there any scouting specifically that you're doing besides oaks and acorns right now? Are you scouting other hunters' sign in there or anything like that?
I mean, I always got my eyes peeled for, people putting up tree stands or existing tree stands. And I'm a big map guy. I really, I use Onyx. I got a couple of them, base maps. Onyx is my main one, but I mark everything, even if it's somebody else's stand. I mark it just so I know it's there, kind of keep an eye on, if anybody's using it, if it's abandoned. Actually, where I was just taught that example I was using in the bucks, I picked up down the camera and then they come up the finger. Yeah. There's actually a ladder stand there, an old hawk or something. Looks like it's been in the tree 5-6 years, right on this finger where they're bedding. And because when my boy found it there a few weeks ago, we're like, oh crap, somebody's up here hunting. And then I look, the straps are stretched into the tree. It don't look like anybody's been in it for a few years. And it's a big old ladder stand, and it's about a 3/4 mile back in the hills. I don't know how they got it back there, but so yeah, I marked that. I mean, I'm banking on that's their buck bedding area, but I'm banking on nobody uses it anymore,
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm always looking for, hunters. I mark everything so I know.
Yeah, that's something I do as well. I think it was on the last episode. I said I wish I could share. I use Hunt Stand quite a bit. It's just what I started on, and I don't like to change stuff. So I wish I could show people kind of how I organize my Hunt Stand, but I don't want to give away all my spots, all my marks and stuff. But I mark other people's stands, other people's cameras, whether it's a mobile cam, whether it's not a mobile cam. I feel like if a guy has a mobile cam in an area, he's more apt to hunt that area because he has intel. So if I see a mobile cam and kind of a stand close, I'm thinking, okay, this guy's invested a lot of assets in this spot, so he's more than likely going to be in here, more than, another spot. So he might be here, a couple days a week or one day on the weekend or whatever. So just put that in the bank. I'm put stuff up like, hey, if I ever get a trail cam, on public, if I get a free trail cam, I want to come in here and hang one. And I just put like a red exclamation point there of like possible cam location, and in the notes I put why. I don't have a cam there, but I have a spot like, hey, I would put a cam here if I had another cam. So if I do get that cam, I go through there, my spots, and kind of rate them. Where do you think I could pick up another buck? What's the best odds? But like I said, marking, I don't know if other people mark those stands, but if you're in there hunting an area and you got that stand marked, you can kind of think about how that guy's going to access that area and how it might affect you as well. Yeah.
Yep. Or if I pick him up on a camera nearby and he's heading there, I kind of know. Yeah. And then I know, like, say, one of them cameras picks up a guy during hunting season, I know that bedding area is blue. Ain't no sense of me going anywhere near that spot. So I'll go somewhere else. But there was another situation in that same area. This was closer to the road, and I kind of monitor for hunters or whatever. It's a new spot for me. So I'm kind of wondering, I know if you go to the south, I've heard that gets quite a bit of pressure, but kind of where I'm at, I don't see much sign of pressure over there on that north side. So there's a creek bed comes up there, a sandy creek bed. I could see tracks, but I had an extra camera when I headed out, just a cheap one. And there's a huge deer trail. This is probably only a couple 100 yards from where people would park on the road, maybe 200-300 yards. But a heavy deer trail going into the cornfield there. It's in the timber, this creek, but, at the bottom of the hills. So I put a trail cam, kind of hit it up in a tree, and usually all my cameras now I put up high. The last 2-3 years, I get a stick, at least 10 feet up so people can't reach them. But then I angled it right down into that creek on that trail, that dry creek bed. But that will also tell me, if anybody's walking up that creek hunting, I'll let that sit all year just to kind of see what kind of pressure's in the area. It's kind of hidden up there a little bit in the tree where most people are going to be looking down on the creek bank, at whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It should give me a lot of information.
Yeah, and that information is awesome.
Human traffic and
to have for years to come, because if someone goes up there and then you're still getting these bucks on cam, you're kind of like, okay, these bucks got a spot where they're hiding, they're still able to use this area, and this guy accessed this creek and they're still in there, so that's maybe something I can do as well. I've done that before where I've seen a guy go in kind of into my area on a mobile cam, and I'm thinking, man, if he's going right through there, he's going to blow that spot out. And then I got bucks on that cam while he's hunting, and he must be past that cam, and I'm like, well, he didn't blow that deer out, and that deer was obviously pretty close. So maybe if I want to hunt that deer, maybe the route that he took in on this wind is the best route there is. So having those, like I said, having those people cams, or just to see what the pressure's like, is sometimes beneficial to not only seeing what the pressure's like, but seeing how you can access a property and whether it's good or bad.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I got some areas that just get so much pressure, then I just kind of bail out. And it depends on what time of year too, like I got one area where I've killed a lot of my big deer over the years, but it's got so much pressure the last 4 or 5 years, come November 1st, I'm not hunting it quite as much. It just depends on what's in there. This year I got a couple of humdingers in there, but I mean, like 170 type class deer. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm more banking on the early season. I've been spending more time on them pressured areas in October. I got the weekends to hunt, and sometimes extended weekend, but yeah, I'll hunt them heavier in October. That's what I'm trying to bank on,
that's my plan as well
anywhere
this year is.
Yeah, then I got different areas that won't see as much pressure for November, and I kind of get up in them. I can just, and cameras will tell you some of that. I mean, parking lots will tell you that. Cameras will tell you that if people are walking through.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people try to wait. They're like, man, I don't want to be in there pressuring these deer in October, but everybody else has been there pressuring them and gonna ruin it by the time November comes anyways. So you need to try to get in there and kill that deer in October. And I have spots like that where I'm like, okay, I know there's going to be 2 or 3 people in here hunting anyways. So if it's a warmer or the wind isn't 100% perfect, I know there's guys in here anyway. So I'm going to try to make it work in that area somewhere, because they're going to blow it out anyways. And I could see it on trail cam every year. They're in there, they're hitting scrapes, they're edging daylight, and then the pressure hits, and they are 100% nocturnal. It's just like, at least on the cams, they might be moving around in their bedding area a little bit, but going to these scrapes and stuff where people are hunting, they're not there in daylight. They're nocturnal, and it's the only reason it can be is it's the pressure. The weather hasn't changed. They say that the deer move more and more throughout October, and the only thing that changes is the pressure of the hunting pressure, so it's good to get in there and try to make it happen in October if you can.
Yeah. One other thing I just thought of, a good place to put cameras in this later part of summer. We've been experiencing real bad kind of drought in most Iowa, especially southern Iowa, central Iowa. No rain for weeks at a time. We're just getting little shots, but the creeks are all dry. If you can find ponds or NOAA ponds, in the timber or anywhere, a lot of times you can study your maps. I mean, they might be a little blip on a map in the middle of the timber, but they usually show up. And that's kind of something I did. Actually, I did that in June. I put cameras on a couple, and I haven't checked them yet, but I'll continue. I mean, that's one spot with this drought. I'll continue to let them sit there through whatever, just to kind of pick up intel and see what's coming into that water source. And
Yeah, I did the same thing as well this year. I was kind of, wanting to get something, a cam that I could get to easy, that I could basically I want to get a picture of this deer and see if he's alive cam. It's not something that I don't think I'd ever kill this deer in this area, but he would come to it, at nighttime, and it's a water source on the way to the ag. And it's covered with that, I don't know what to call it. It's that green, really stemmy. I call it like muskrat sticks or whatever, because that's what I always see muskrats hauling around,
yeah, kind of like a bamboo type thing almost.
And it's just like 4 foot around that complete area. And I hung a cam where the muskrats were coming out of the water. They kind of had like a 3 foot hole right there where they'd been coming in and out. I'm sure otters and whatever. And all the deer go right to that hole to get a drink instead of trying to mess with all that green stemmy stuff. So if you can find a pond like that and then you find that 3 foot gap, I put a cam right there, and I've only checked it once, but I had a ton of deer that were hitting that earlier in the year, on the way. It was all at night, of course, on the way to the big ag field, but they were going out there and hitting that water, and they were hitting it right in that gap. So that's something to look out for if you do run in this scenario where you do have that heavy stem around or cattails around the ponds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they always pick the least resistance. If there's an opening in the water, they'll go to it. And hopefully, with as dry as it's been, we don't start seeing EHD.
Yeah, I seen Brooke Martin. He's kind of down there in the same area, and he said that it's been super dry down there. And we had a dry spell there for a while, but we got some rain finally. But Southern Illinois has kind of been the same way as you. It's been real dry, not a lot of rain.
Yeah.
The storms keep going north and not hitting down there. So hopefully this late in the year, like you said, they're starting to shed velvet that we can miss that devastating EHD. But
yeah, I know, stuff's horrible.
Is there anything else that you're doing out there scouting wise early in the season here that you think people might like to hear about?
We brought up kind of Onyx maps a little bit. I mean, it's probably old news, but if guys haven't heard it, when I'm out scouting in the spring, February, March, when you can see the scrapes of bass rubs, I'm marking on my Onyx maps. Every scrape I see now. You can kind of put together scrape lines, and then that's another thing. That helps me now, because sometimes this time of year it's hard to find scrapes.
Oh man, it's hard.
And everything. So growed up, so you can see them plain as day in March. So, I mean, I started doing extensively this last spring. I've done it off and on, but over the last couple of years. But I did extensively this March. I marked, in these real good areas, real heavy areas, thick areas, a lot of big rubs, and I mark practically every good scrape, and then I'll go back, coming up in the probably next week or two, there's a couple areas that I want to, and I'm going to just put, if just soaker cameras, just to kind of, I might run a cell cam in the area, but mainly I'm going to run them on these scrapes. Some of them, if I'm up there hunting, I might check. Some of them might end up sitting till end of season or, whatever. Probably, I'll let them sit till February, March till they're shed out. But, I might check them after season just to kind of get an idea what bucks are using these scrapes, how much, daylight, how close, you can tell how close they are to bed by the time of day. They're going to tell me a lot, but yeah, that's a huge tip. Just mark every scrape you see, or even mark them in the fall if you're out walking around. It don't have to be marked in the fall. If you see one when you're hunting, mark it on your maps.
Yeah, that's something that's really hard to find. Those big rubs, it's crazy how much those trees can grow, and you really got to get up close to them to be like, yeah, that's, and look at the grooves.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, that's a good old rub right there. And I got a new piece of private this year that's fairly big, and it's a whole bunch of different pieces, and scouting it, and never being on it before, trying to scout in the summertime is so frustrating and hard, because you're thinking, okay, yeah, I'm on a good trail here. When I get back in there, man, there should be some good scrapes and good rubs on this trail, you just can't find them. You might be able to find a licking branch that's kind of chewed on, kind of give you a pinpoint, but really, it's really hard to find those rubs because those trees just grow back so well, especially the younger trees. And if it isn't something that's hit, repeatedly, where like there's still no bark on that side of the tree, and it's kind of like reamed out, where the bark's kind of grown back into itself, it's really hard to see that sign right now. So I do the same thing as you. I map it and mark it. Like you said, you can look at that map in an area and kind of put pieces together. Even when you get back at the house, you can kind of zoom out and say, okay, what can I put together off of the sign that I found out there today?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Scott. Well, I appreciate you chatting with me about some early season tactic here. I know you're always on a couple giants out there and putting a lot of work on your family farm. So I appreciate you can give me a little time here.
Yep. Yeah, I've got more on camera this year in public than I've had in a long time. So I'm really, really excited for this year. I've had more big ones than I've probably ever had.
The bucks that returned they had a really good growing year this year.
Oh, good.
So I'm excited about that. I have one. It's so hard to tell in velvet. It's just like, man, it needs to get the velvet off, and I can really see it. But I think I had one that's probably 35, 40 inches bigger, like a really good growing year. So I'm excited. That's chips and dip. Got sheds off him last year. Encountered him a couple times.
Oh, yeah.
So hopefully he made it. But yeah, I think he made like a 35-inch jump through a bunch of flyers and splits and stuff. So excited to see what he's got going on. But like you said, this is the time of the year where you're really anxious to go out there and pull cams and start making moves. We're so close to season now, you can almost taste it.
Yeah, I know, for real.
All right.
Exciting.
Well, yeah, I appreciate you spending some time with me tonight.
Okay, sounds good. Good luck, everybody, this year.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode from Scott. I know I definitely did. Scott is always on an absolute giant in Iowa and gets it done year after year. Not only him, but him and his family members and everybody that hunts in his hunting party. Always a great guest to have on. Like always, we appreciate you guys tuning in all the way to the end. Hopefully you enjoyed the intro. I worked on that, learning how to edit everything and put this podcast together. It's getting better, getting easier. Appreciate you guys sticking it with me. If you could leave a review, let me know how I'm doing on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you're listening. That'd be great. Let me know what you think about the show, your honest opinion. As always, try to do the right thing. Try to leave a legacy. And Whitetail Legacy is out until we're coming in your holes next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central Time. Thank you, guys. Love you.